Starting live.
I think we're live now. This is fun. Hello, Michael here. This is a Google Hangout. I'm hanging out with my Googles, which is nice. I don't know. I've never done this before. I know I'm answering some of your questions. I've purposely not found out what the questions are in advance. I do have a little glass of red wine to help me. Frankie is lurking in the corner over there, and she's picked up all the tweets, all the Twitter questions. So should we just do it? Yeah, I think we should. Frankie, first.
Great. Where did you get the title of the album from?
Where did I get the title of the album from? It's actually the title of the track, if everyone was listening. And
live.
I think we're live now. This is fun. Hello, Michael here. Oh dear, this is a Google Hangout. Very, very weird. I'm hanging out with my Googles.
A delay. Here we go.
I love technology, don't you? Yeah. Frankie's doing a masterful job. That was a bit freaky. Okay, I'm new to technology, as you can tell. Where did I get the idea for the album from? It's the title track, if everyone was listening. It's a song that was first performed by Supertramp, written by Roger Hodgson of Supertramp. They released it in 1974, but I heard it in 1979. It would have been when I was with Surrey Youth Theatre, and it was used as the introductory music to two plays that we were doing there. And it just resonated with me. I just thought, what an amazing track. And I loved the idea of putting all these harmonies, but using my own voice, laying all harmonies on top of each other. The lyrics of the song, if you've heard it, start with, the actors and jesters are here. The stage is in darkness and clear. They're raising the curtain, but no one's quite certain whose play it is. And it kind of was a metaphor for real life. And it's what actors do. It's what musicians do. They hold up as Shakespeare said in Hamlet, getting posh now, they hold up a mirror to life. And that's what we do. So I've always wanted to record it. And it just sounded like a really good title for an album as well, if everyone was listening. Because that's all we want people to do, is listen to the music that we make, and to hopefully have a connection with that music and to feel it says something to you. So I hope that's... And do you know what? That was the first question. It was a very good question. So I'm going to send whoever you are who posed it. Who posed the question?
I believe that was Vera.
Vera, good question, lovely. You can get a signed CD.
That's Vera. If you could send your
address, send your address
to the Michael Ball Facebook page.
Send your address to the Michael Ball Facebook page is what Frankie's saying. You probably heard her, but I can reiterate it. It's fine.
Caitlin Richardson asks,
yeah,
if you could add one more song to your album, what would it be?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. God, there's loads. There's a song I just scheduled to put in the Sunday show, Sunday Night with Michael Ball, by Dan Fogelberg, called Longer. Longer than da dee da 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 da. Beautiful song. And I was listening to that and thinking, oh, that would work really nicely. Do you know what? There are still so many songs left for me to record. So hopefully in future albums I'll get to do that. But for a piece of work, for what I wanted to say with this album, for everyone who's listening, I think we got it right. I think we've got the balance right. You know, there are toe-tapping songs, but a lot of quite mellow, quite relaxed, quite introspective and quite sensitive songs. And it feels right. It feels the right length, and it feels like the right combination of music.
Did you enjoy, sorry, Linda Gent asks, did you enjoy recording with the Overtones? It's a beautifully done song.
Oh, Linda, thank you very much. Of course, recording with the Overtones, what I can tell you, they're a nightmare. We had such a good time. You can see if you look at the video. They're a great bunch of lads. It's as simple as that. They're not just a great bunch of lads. They're really, really spot-on performers. We came in to the studio, worked out what harmonies we wanted, how the structure of the song felt like it should sound, and we laughed a lot. And we actually did it really quickly because, you know, the guys are, you know, really fast. Timmy was in the middle of doing Great British Sewing Bee at the time, which he went on to win, of course. And so he showed us a little thing that he'd run up earlier when we were recording it. And I'm really pleased with the way it sounded. It's always been a great favourite of mine. There would have been no point for me in just trying to do a straight version of what the Everly Brothers did, so it needed to sound different. It's why I wanted a vocal group as opposed to just another voice on there or just harmonizing with my own voice. And I'm thrilled that they accepted my invitation to come and do it. And if you, some of you may have come to the charity concert I did at the Phoenix Theatre last year for Shooting Star Chase, where the boys appeared. Literally 5 minutes before we went on stage, I said, can we switch numbers? Can we do this number? And they were up for it. You know, they're good lads, they're funny, so talented, and they work incredibly hard as well. I'm a big fan.
Mrs. Coffeehead asks,
Mrs. Coffeehead.
whose album are you playing in the car at the moment?
Oh, gosh. Do you know, I listen to radio mostly, and so get a mixture. Ed Sheeran's new album, I think, is amazing. I've always got my old favourites on standby. I've always got John Martyn's Solid Air, which is where May You Never comes from. There's always a Janician Between the Lines in there. There's always going to be a Joni Mitchell album playing away. Who else am I listening to at the moment? Oh, we've all run out and got the One Direction new one, haven't we? I actually have.
A bit of an interesting one from Bambino01. Would you rather have eyes for teeth or teeth for eyes?
Okay, let me just work this one out. Would I rather have eyes for teeth or teeth for eyes? Is that literal or metaphorical? If it's metaphorical, is way above my head. If it's literal, would I want to have teeth for eyes or eyes for teeth? I have eye teeth. Those are your canines, your eye. Canines, your eye teeth. I don't understand the question. I'm a bit floundering. So I want teeth for eyes.
Good choice. Mark Barefoot asks, which musical makes you cry the most?
Oh, Mark. It's a weird one for me because so many of musicals have real personal associations for me. So obviously Les Mis will make me cry. I think probably Blood Brothers, ones that I haven't been associated with. I think that is such a powerful story, so beautifully written. My best mate was in the London production. He won the Olivier for it, Con O'Neill. So I do have an association with it, but there's something about it. It's very stripped down. It's very bare. It's really, really beautiful. Although I did cry my eyes out at Miss Saigon as well recently. But I think ultimately it would be Blood Brothers. Good question. You may have one of the new albums.
Very good.
You've got to leave your Facebook message with your address, and I'll get it to you. How many of these am I allowed to give away?
As many
Thousands.
as you like. Emma Lunt asks, what do you want your epitaph to say about you?
Oh, what a horrible question. What do I want my epitaph? It's not down it's not down to us to write our own epitaph, I don't think. Probably something like, he did no harm. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? He did no harm.
Vera asked another great question.
It's the same Vera.
Yes.
Vera, 2 questions.
You've a dinner party and can have one guest from each category, living or dead.
Okay. Comedian,
singer, actor, sportsman. Who would it be?
Oh, blimey. Okay. Comedian, Eric Morecambe. Comedienne, I have to say Victoria Wood, because she'd kill me if I didn't. And actually, she's good company. Singer, male, Frank Sinatra. I think he'd be an amazing dinner guest. Female, Dolly. Yeah, I want to have dinner with Dolly again. That'd be nice. What was the other one? Actor. That's interesting idea. I don't know. I'd like someone like Richard Burton. I'd like Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. Those would be good. Sportsman, Big Daddy, or Shirley Crabtree, as he's better known. Sportswoman. Who would I have as a sportswoman? Someone like Rachel Hayhoe Flint. You don't know who I'm talking about, do you? Well, Rachel Hayhoe Flint was the captain of the England ladies cricket team, and she just seemed very nice, and she's got a terrific name. So Google her, Rachel Hayhoe Flint.
Alina Talbio asks, what are your feelings after you've completed the album? Does it feel the same every time?
There's a funny feeling when you finish an album, because first of all, there's this really long wait between you finishing it and people hearing it before it being out in the big wide world. So there's a lot of nerves involved there. So I tend to play it to friends and colleagues to get their reaction, engage their reaction. So it's a feeling of, if you're proud of what you've done, and you know, I've always been really pleased. You know, we wouldn't do it otherwise, and you could only let out into the world something that you're very proud of and very pleased with. So there's this feeling of pride and this feeling of nervous anticipation, hoping that that people are going to like it, and they're going to like what you've been locked away in a little room making for a long time. You know, it's a double-edged sword. I hope you do like it, by the way. It's cool if everyone was listening. I haven't mentioned that before.
Cindy asks, she says she's a big country music fan, but what's your favourite country artist?
Cindy, I am such a country music fan. You know I'm a big country music fan. That's why some of the songs on the album have a sort of country flavour to them. Who are my favourite artists? Really hard to say. Dolly is obviously up there. I just think she's magnificent on every level. Great entertainer, huge longevity, and the most brilliant, wonderful writer. The songs that she comes up with, absolutely amazing. Garth Brooks, I've always enjoyed his work. Alison Krauss, of course, Simple Love is a song that she did really great. Lady Antebellum, another song on the album. They're a terrific band. There are a few names for you. There are loads more. You know, go right back to Jim Reeves, terrific artist. What a beautiful sounding voice. It's the thing about country music, the country genre. Some people say, oh no, I don't like country. No, it's not for me. And then you say, well, you know, this is a country song. You play a song to them, but you don't give it the country twang. And they go, well, that's an amazing song. You go, well, yeah, exactly. It's labels. Labels are rubbish. You don't need to have labels on music. It's just either good music or not good music. So, but for that genre, I guess we'd call it them that I just mentioned.
Nicola
Don Kenny Rogers.
Nicola
and Glenn Campbell. Sorry, Nicola.
Nicola Kitto asks, any tips for a 9-year-old boy who's got his first solo in a school concert? He's a little nervous.
Oh, of course you are, mate. I bet you're nervous. 9 years old. I did a solo in my school choir at 9 years old, and it is scary. Here's my advice. Just know that everybody who's listening to you, that you're going to go and sing out to, really want you to do well. They really want you to do your best. And they'll be so proud of you just for getting up there and having a go. And you think of the pride that your family are going to feel when you get up there and do it. And just remember that you're doing it because you can, because you're good and people want to share. And if you get really, really nervous, I want you to look at everybody in the audience, look at them carefully, and then picture them in their underpants. Okay? Then you won't have any nerves at all. Don't giggle though, but just picture them in their pants.
Gitta Tewson asks, you've mentioned wanting to do a play at some point. Are there any specific roles you'd like to play? That's
an interesting one for plays. There's no real specific. I had this hankering once to do a play called The Dresser, which is a really, they made a movie with Tom Courtenay and Albert Finney, and people said, oh, you'd want to play Sir, you know, this great Shakespearean actor. No, I wanted to be the dresser, because I wanted to base him on Andrew, who's my assistant, my dresser, who's sat over there, you know, glaring at me. Because I think it's a really good play. It's a really funny play and very poignant. I did Shakespeare at school. I don't know if I'd be brave enough now to try Shakespeare. I do love Shakespeare, though. And if I did do Shakespeare, who would I play? Anybody saying Falstaff, turn off Google now. Nice question, Maggie. Thank you. You may have a signed album.
Helen Rose asks, do you have any pre-show rituals?
Yeah. Do I have any pre-show rituals? Is any surprises that I get on stage doing all my pre-show rituals? Yes, I do. I always have a song that I'll dance around in the dressing room to. We always have kind of a warm-up song to just get the vibe going. I have to get dressed in exactly the same order as I've always got dressed in. You know my old superstitions, no one can whistle in the dressing room, mention the Scottish play, all that kind of thing. The very last thing that always happens before I go on stage is that Andrew, I've just mentioned, has to ask me if my flies are done up and I'm smelling nice for the ladies and gentlemen. He really gets annoyed having to say that because he can't quite understand why I do it. But it's something that's happened. And so if something happens and you do a good show, you think, well, it's only happened because I've done this certain ritual. So it then has to happen every single time. I also do this tapping technique for nerves, which seems to work really well. So yeah, and there are loads of everything I do on an opening night, basically, if it goes well, I have to do it again every night.
Claire Park asks, what's your biggest career highlight?
Wow, that's an interesting one because there are loads that I could think of. Because I had a brilliant time. I think for me, winning the Olivier Award the second time for Sweeney Todd was just amazing. It was such a challenge to do that show, and I was so proud of the production. And we'd actually been finished. We'd been closed for 6 months before the awards came around. And to get the recognition, not just for me, but for the show to get the award and for Imelda Staunton to get the award as well, it just felt amazing. It was really thrilling. But then there are things like having my own prom at the Albert Hall in the BBC Proms and it was the first time a musical theatre artist had that. That was really special. Singing with Vera Lynn on VE Day in Hyde Park. Oh my goodness, I'll never forget that. There are so many. The first time I went on stage in Godspell, my goodness, what a highlight that was for me. I couldn't believe it. I was being paid for doing something I loved. Brilliant experience. Nice question. You can have an album. I'm giving away all the albums. We're not selling any, we'll just give them away.
Bobby asks,
Yeah.
what's your favourite song that you could sing till your heart's content?
It changes. You fall in and out of love with songs. I mean, there are always songs that I will always perform in concerts that people would kind of be upset if I didn't sing. And, the luck changes everything. Empty Chairs and Empty Tables are examples of two of them. And I'm happy to do those songs. I think they're great songs and they mean an awful lot to me and an awful lot to other people. The songs I love to sing, if I'm in the right place, and there is nothing more challenging and more exciting than singing Gethsemane from Jesus Christ Superstar. I can't wait to do a lot of these songs from the album live in concert. I think Bad Things going to be great in concert. And Stuck Like, I've done it in concert before. Some of you would have been to one of our concerts and seen me do it. But Stuck Like Glue, I think that'll go really well in concert. There's a song, If Tomorrow Never Comes, the Garth Brooks song. Kind of means a lot. And I'll never get tired of singing that. Any song that has, the double whammy effect of a great lyric and a good melody. And if it's a good enough lyric, it reinvents itself every time you sing it. It starts meaning different things to you and takes on a deeper resonance or a different resonance, not just for the singer, but for the listener as well. So those are the best kinds of songs, and there are a few of those out there.
Samantha Isaacson, asks, what's the best thing about performing?
Best thing about performing. I could make a glib little answer here, but I'm not going to, I'll be honest. It's without question, it's the connection with the audience. It's being that conduit, and if it works, the conduit between what the writer has done with his song and your interpretation and giving it to an audience. And if that works, there's no feeling like it. There really isn't. And when you do an evening like that, a concert, it's the nature of this business that some concerts go better than others, both for you and for the audience. But when it all comes together, when you do your best show and the audience is fantastic and receptive, and that you've moved people and they've had a great night, there's no high like it. It's an extraordinary feeling. It's a really powerful and yet humbling experience. And you never know why it's working. from one show to the next. You never know why one show comes together and is thrilling and exciting, and others, yeah, they're okay. There's a famous story. I think it was Laurence Olivier, the actor, was doing Othello, a world famous, renowned, meant to be the definitive version of Othello, at the Old Vic, and in the audience were a lot of very great and good people, and a friend of his came backstage and he gave the performance of his life. It was magnificent. And they came back to see him in his dressing room, and he was weeping, absolutely weeping. And they said, "Larry," that's what they called him, "Larry, why are you crying? You've given the performance of your life." And he said, "Well, that's the problem. I don't know why, and I don't know how to do it again." That's a bit over dramatic, to be perfectly honest, but I get it. I understand. You don't know why some performances are good and why some don't hit, but hopefully most of them are.
Tess asks, if you could eat only one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, Tess, I can only eat one thing for the rest of my life. I'm not going to be chocolate. No, what can I eat for the rest of my life? Sunday roast. Now, I know that's not specific, because you know I can have a lot of bits in my Sunday roast, but it'll be Sunday roast.
Marie Thompson says, first of all, congratulations on the new album.
Thank you.
It's brilliant. Which is your favourite track to record?
My favourite track to record, that's a hard one, because you kind of love all of them, you know, as you're doing them. I think the most interesting was to look at, if everyone was listening, and to experiment with that sound idea of layering my own voice to make those harmonies and backing vocals throughout it. I Won't Give Up, Jason Mraz. That's a really powerful song, and it's going to be a modern classic. You know, the people will be listening to that song for the next 20, 30, 40 years. It's a good old song. But I like having fun as well, so I did enjoy doing Stuck Like Glue, and again doing all those harmonies on top of it. I love the process in the recording studio, because you have the time to sit there and play with sounds and play with ideas, and you know, loads of them that you do just don't work, and you chuck it out. You say, no, that isn't how I'm hearing it in my head. Let's find a new way of doing it. The test will come when we do them live, when we do them in front of an audience, when I go out on tour in April. And because by the nature of the show, we won't be able to do every song from the album and perform it live. I'd love to hear from you what you think, from anyone who's watching this, what songs you think would work best, you know, in live and in concert. Because you know me, I love getting feedback from everybody, saying what works, what doesn't work, what they're enjoying. It's really exciting to know that there's people who are bothered, who listen, and who care about what we do.
Joanna asks, has the way in which you approach a piece of music to sing or perform changed over the years?
Yeah, it's a good question. You may have an album. Yeah, it has. I think as you get older, as you mature, the way you approach anything changes, because you come at it from a different perspective. You know, the way I would sing Empty Chairs and Empty Tables differs now from how it did when I was originally Marius, because the nature of growing older is that you lose people at the wrong times, and really sadly. So those feelings resonate with you. And technically, how you approach a song changes as well. You get a better understanding of how to use a microphone, how to extract an emotion from a lyric, how to phrase, how to breathe, how to save your voice, how to push your voice. So the whole process constantly evolves and constantly changes and constantly challenges you, which is why I still love doing what I do.
Cindy asks, are there any hilarious onstage mishaps you'll never forget?
Oh, Cindy, are there any hilarious ones? There are loads. There's far too many to go. I think my favourite of all time, this is quite a long story. Can I tell this? Yeah, probably can. My favourite was, there's this tradition in the theatre of the last matinee performance that you're in, you can have fun with. And I remember the last matinee performance of Phantom of the Opera that I appeared in. And it wasn't just mine, it was a lot of people's. I would be in box 5 looking at Christine Daae singing on the stage, and there was a gorilla in there with me. The girl who was Rosemary Ash, who was in the opera part of Il Muto, and they dress her up in these fine robes. She's doing a part of it in an opera. And they would put rings on her fingers, and they put the rings on, and then they attached cheese wire between them. So her hands were completely stuck like that for the rest of the show. Came to the very end of the show, and I came out of the Phantom's lair with my shirt ripped. I put a tattoo on, Raoul for Christine Forever. And I got into the boat at the end, and I had a hairy chest wig on, a medallion, because I knew the audience couldn't see this, and a cornetto in my hand, so I could go across the back and hand the cornetto down. But the girl who'd been playing Christine wasn't in the boat with me. It was somebody else. It was actually Claire Moore, who'd come back to do this gag in a fright wig, buck teeth, painted on a moustache, and big eyelashes and the skull earrings. And she was miming to the other girl off stage. And I only had one line with this cornetto dripping in my hand. All I had to say was, say the word and I will follow you. And it came out as, I will follow you. Because I was laughing so much. I had people in, and they came backstage to see me. And they went, oh, we could tell it was your last day on this show. And I went, oh, no, really? He went, yeah, the emotion in that last scene, you could hardly speak, could you? I'll tell you one more about Phantom, because it's a good story. If you've seen Phantom, at the very end, Phantom gets this magic noose, and he puts it around Raoul's neck, and it tightens, and it's got you don't know how it's working. He's hanging like that. And Dave Willits, who was playing Phantom at the time, went to get the noose with a bit of sleight of hand off stage, and it got caught. So we didn't have a noose. So he had to do something to me to make it look like he'd got me under his power and controlled me. Otherwise, I'd rescue Christian and it's over. So he just walked up to me and went, "Whoa." That was it. And I'm, with great presence of mind, leapt back onto the portcullis and pretended it was electrified. So I'm hanging on the back, but all the way through the scene, I had to pretend I had an electric current passing through me. I laughed a lot. See, there are hundreds. I don't think there's a show, there's certainly no individual show I've ever been in that hasn't had disasters going on. And I'm not the best at not laughing. I hope audiences don't ever see it, because it's not professional. And I'm very professional.
Last question.
Last question?
It's already gone, I know.
It's gone. It's blimey, that flew past.
Sarah Gutierrez asks, do you miss dressing like a lady every day?
Do I miss dressing like a lady every day? Who says I don't dress as a lady every day? You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Do you know what? Edna was the best fun I've ever had on a stage. I loved it. I hope I'll see her again sometime. So I do miss Edna, yes. Bye. That's it. That's all we've time for. I'm going to have another glass of wine. Thank you for listening and being part of it. And go and buy if everyone was listening, please, because it made me happy. Cheers.